Verse 219 from Surah Al-Baqarah talks about the idea of drinking wine and gambling, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared both of these to be haram. But in the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared them to be haram lies a very important point, and that is in this verse, verse 219. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الْخَمْرِ وَالْمَيْسِرِ, they ask you about wine and they ask you about gambling, and you should tell them in response, قُلْ فِيهِمَا إِثْبٌ كَبِيرٌ, there is a great sin, a great negativity in both of them, وَمَنَافِعُ لِلنَّاسِ, and there are benefits in both of them for people as well. وَإِثْمُهُمَا أَكْبَرُ مِنْ نَفْعِهِمَا, but because the negatives that they bring to life is more than the benefits, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared them haram. The verse, of course, is declaring, drinking wine and gambling haram, but it's doing that while acknowledging that even these two things that we might look at as very evil things do have potentially some benefits. And so what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is highlighting here is that when we declare something haram, when we say something is forbidden, it doesn't mean that everything associated with that thing is an evil thing, it's a bad thing. That's not necessarily the case. That might be the case with certain things, right? But with other things, there might be some benefits in it as well, but because overall the negatives heavily or outweigh the positives, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared them haram. This is very, very important. Why? Because a lot of times when we think about the rulings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set for us, we might look at a certain ruling and think of one particular benefit that could come out of something, and yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared it haram. And we wonder why. Why is that, right? That's because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is looking at that issue from all of the different angles. He's weighing out everything. Yes, the good, the bad, all of it together. Then He declares it haram, for example. Or He might declare it halal or wajib, for example. Right? So I'll give you an example. Sometimes someone might think to himself, why is it that Islam has such strict rulings when it comes to dress code between the two genders and the interaction between the two genders? Wouldn't life be a little bit easier if these restrictions were a little bit more relaxed? That could be the case. It's not that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had declared that halal, that there would be no benefit in it at all. No, there could be some benefit in it. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is weighing all of the good and all of the bad. So imagine if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that even in drinking wine, there potentially could be some benefit, but because the cons to it and the negatives to it far outweigh the good, we're going to declare it haram. Imagine if He says that about wine. Imagine what the ruling would be as it relates to other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has declared haram. So this is a reminder for you and I that we look at things from one angle, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at things from different angles. And just because we find some benefit in something that is haram doesn't mean that God missed the mark. It just means that He's looking at it and weighing it from all of the different angles, and hence He is declaring that thing halal or haram.